Thank you so much, Dr. Ashok Doble. Now, as you all know, our topic for today is digital workflow in tooth-supported full mouth reconstruction cases by Dr. Moez Kakiani. I'm sure most of you already know him or have heard of him speak before. But for any one of you who might not know him yet, here's a small introduction. Professor Dr. Moez Kakiani is an MDS in prosthodontics and maintains a private practice in Bandra, Mumbai called Smile Masters and Jaw Joint Matters since 2006, with special attention towards fixed prosthetics, functional smile designing, full mouth reconstructions, and TMJ pain management. He is a professor at Karnavati School of Dentistry, Ahmedabad, and is a fellow of ICOI, PFA, and ICD, and has a postgraduate diploma in aesthetics and cosmetic dentistry from State University of Buffalo, New York, USA. He has recently been bestowed as a fellow of TMD, Orofacial Pain and Dental Sleep Medicine by Roseman University, Nevada, USA. He is author of the highly acclaimed books titled Clinical Fixed Prosthodontics, Starter and Master Volume, for which he has been bestowed with multiple awards. He is the founder chairman of the Academy of Digital Dentistry and the co-founder of MIK Dental with 7 dental patents registered under his name. He is a key opinion leader with companies like 3M, Colgate, Abbott, Medicept, IPCA Pharmaceuticals, and Hugh Freddie. He has to his credit several papers and publications at various conferences in India and overseas and is a highly acclaimed speaker for his clinically relevant presentations. He has over 350 keynote podium lectures at various national, state, and international conferences and dental colleges and is the director of MIK Education, under which banner he actively conducts CD courses on crown and bridge dentistry, ceramic laminates, occlusion, full mouth reconstructions and rehabilitations and TMJ disorders. So, without any further ado, I now over to Dr. Moez.
All right. Thank you so very much, Shivani, for that lovely welcome. All right. It gives me immense pleasure, friends, to know that for this first webinar of the series, we have more than 3,000 registered delegates. That is astounding. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Very quickly, I'm going to go ahead and share screen and, of course, jump into my presentation. So friends, the topic for the quick webinar today is digital protocols in tooth-supported full mouth reconstructions. I'm going to start with a quote because these quotes I love and are also inspiring. And it is beautifully said. There is nothing permanent except change. And when it comes to the topic of change, I want to go back into time. Tell me if there's a deja vu moment when you see this. I remember my youthful days when we used to pick up that dial and go, goes back, and then we keep doing that. And to us, that was amazing because I am sitting here, a friend of mine is in a different state or a different city, and wirelessly I can collect with them. How brilliant. As a child, it fascinated me. Only to realize that things could become even smaller and even better. And this is one of those communicators then followed. This meant that I am not connected with a wire and I can hold this and move around at home wherever I am, doing whatever I want to. Then came this tool right here. This is the snake world. And I have a feeling a lot of us sitting out there have experienced this at some point. This is the Nokia 3310. यार ये वो चीज थी, ये वो जमाना था जब हम बच्चे थे. But those are fond memories. Uske baad ek daur aaya. And I remember fighting for my next gadget. And the fight was for the 6600. Kyun? Uska beech ka jo joystick tha na, usse pyar ho gaya tha hame. And this is how things evolved, things changed. And then suddenly there was a phase where everything was about folding phones. Jo khulte the. Aur ab hum ja rahe hain ulta, we're talking about folds that actually collapse down. We're talking about data protection. We're talking about modernization. Everything now is becoming more and more and more digital. This is the evolution. This is change. And I love to say this, friends. digitalization and modernization go hand in hand. So why should we in dentistry be left behind? Why? Which is the reason why my topic for today is going to be modern day dentistry. And as I address this topic, I want to tell you of how we used to do dentistry, which was the analog workflow, and how we do dentistry today, which is digitally influenced. I like to think of this as kal ki dentistry and aane wale kal ki dentistry. My dad beautifully tells me, beta, don't be the first to take up something. Don't be the last to give up something. And I think digitalization is going through that beautiful phase where there have been stalwarts who've brought in this to us. We don't want to be the last to uptake it because we don't want to be the last in the race. So this is the time where we should also jump onto the digital bandwagon. And here I am specifically talking about digitalization from one of the most complex topics of fixed prosthetic dentistry, which is a tooth-supported full mouth reconstruction. Okay. To add perspective to this, I will first give you guys steps. Now remember, whenever we do a full mouth reconstruction, it's not like patient aaya, bithaya, daat cut kiya, ghar dao. Nahi. There has to be first the planning phase, and then subsequently comes the actual execution phase. So I'm going to list 10 steps that I follow in a sequence with respect to my treatment planning, 10 steps with respect to my treatment execution. Wherever you are, go ahead and take a screenshot of this slide because it will really help you. Follow these individual steps and you will not go wrong. But remember one thing, अगर स्क्रीनशॉट लिया है, फोटो लिया है तो शेयर करना तो बनता है, और अगर शेयर किया तो टैग करना बनता है. किससे टैग करोगे? हमें करोगे, इंडियन डेंटल एसोसिएशन हेड ऑफिस को करोगे. छोटी सी रिक्वेस्ट है. ओके, नाउ ये 20 चीजें हमने लिस्ट कर दी है. Where does digitalization come into all of this? If you look at these 20 steps right now, they're all in a black font. Whatever changes into a blue font is digitally influenced. So here's the magic. From the treatment planning phase, accepting the step of actually making a putty index, because वो computer नहीं कर सकता हमारे लिए. Every other step is digitally influenced. I'm not saying is completely digital. We are yet the drivers. We are yet the people who are controlling the ship. But remember, it is influenced and improvised upon by digital technology. When I talk about treatment execution, cementation, उसमें कुछ भी digital नहीं है. अभी भी cements वो use करने हमने. But every other step, friends, is digitally influenced. So you can understand here कितना कुछ बदल चुका है dentistry में. So much of work that we used to do in the analog protocols with plaster, with stone, with cast, with mountings, with articulator can be to a great extent digitally influenced. Hold that thought here. Am I telling you वो सब materials की जरूरत नहीं है? नहीं, जरूरत है. All those materials still hold true. We are not 100% digital as yet. And that is something that I will share during this presentation, saying I am not here to talk to you about a full mouth reconstruction that will be done A to Z completely digital. Not possible yet. But remember, we're in the age of advancements. Maybe in the future, we could go 100% digital. At this point of time, we're going to mix analog and digital protocols together so that we can achieve a predictable end result and one which is in our patient's best interest. अगर हम digitally influence की बात करते हैं, why should I, as a dentist, take up the digitally influenced protocols? I'm very happy with my analog. लेकिन अगर मैंने अदरक चखा नहीं है तो मुझे अदरक का स्वाद पता नहीं है. So here I am giving you an understanding of why is this modern day digitally influenced dentistry better than our analog. Let me first start with talking about better planning. How often do you get patients in your practice who are aesthetically very finicky? It's like, नहीं ये दांत तो ऐसा होना चाहिए, ये ऐसा है, ये वैसा है, वो तैसा है. अरे भाई, कौन सी मनूस गढ़ी थी जब ये पेशेंट मेरी प्रैक्टिस में आया? I don't want to create a scenario like that, which is why today, with the digitally influenced world, if you look closely at these two scans that I have created, with the digital planning that has been done on a software, we have provided this patient with two different designs of upper anterior teeth. Posteriors are the exact same. Lower anteriors are the exact same. But the major domain of aesthetics lies with the upper centrals, laterals, and the canine. So if you look closely at both of these designs, the design that you see on the left of your screen is something that has a flattened incisal edge. But the one on the right side has a more curved incisal edge. So what do I do now? I make a putty index and I give the patient a test drive. What is a test drive? It's not just a two-dimensional representation, but it is actually saying, आप feel करो, महसूस करो, आपके फेस पे अब जब बात करते हो तब ये कैसा लगता है. And then simply ask the patient, which one of these two do you like the more? Do you like the one that has the flattened incisal edge more? And look at what I'm doing. I'm taking pictures here. Or do you like the one which has the more curved incisal edges? And then allow the patient to make this informed decision. You have gone that extra step for your patient. I am not talking about getting two wax-ups done from the laboratory. That can be very cumbersome. दो models, दो articulation, दो बार wax-up, बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत है. But when it comes to digital, the best part is this can be done in a jiffy. It'll take your technician not more than 10-15 minutes to alter those incisal edges and give you a second design or a third design or a fourth design. This patient is like, Doctor Saab, ab itna kar rahe ho mere liye? Absolutely. We are committed to giving you the best. And that is where digitally influenced dentistry helps, because it helps me plan my cases better. Also, what does it do? It helps me convert my patients. So imagine a patient walks into your practice, young girl, saying, I want to look better. Look better? I think you are looking absolutely fine. What is it that you don't like about your smile? And that's when the Pandora's box opens. Because when I look into her mouth, there is a major aesthetic issue. Look closely. Can you identify what that issue is? Majorly to do with the second quadrant, guys. Second quadrant, the lateral incisor is missing. Where's the canine? The canine is in the position of the lateral. So where is the actual canine? The canines move forward. So what's in the position of the canine? It's actually an over-retained deciduous canine. Now, the discussion with her is, you know what? We should do orthodontic treatment. We will extract the deciduous canine. We will move the canine into its proper position. We will place an implant in the position of the lateral incisor. We will give you the most amazing smile. You will look good. It will be the most physiologic, the most biological way of treating your case. And the patient says, Doctor Saab, 2 हफ्ते में मेरी शादी है. What's your comeback now? This is where you have to step in and start planning the case from a different perspective, one that you can give the patient immediate gratification for. And how do I know what I have to do? Before I convince my patient for treatment, मुझे पता होना चाहिए कि मुझे क्या करना है. And this is where 2D smile designing really helps. Because with the help of these digital simulators, in about 15-20 minutes, I can give the patient a perspective saying, this is you, and this is where I can take you. This is something that I would be able to achieve. Do you like this? If the patient says yes, and provided it is within the realms of your work domain, go ahead and commit. You have converted that patient. But remember one thing. Always remember one thing. Whenever you put a simulation like this, please put a tagline with that simulation saying it is a digital simulation and final results may vary. You don't want a scenario where your patient says, but photo mein to bahut acha lag raha tha, ye theek nahi lag raha. So let this be put out there to your patient before you start the treatment. And then with your patient's consent and approval to your work, go ahead and then execute in the best manner possible. And this will leave your patient smiling, extremely happy. And remember, a happy patient refers 10 more. An unhappy patient takes 100 away from your practice. So you'd rather commit to doing good dentistry with the help of digital technology. And remember, digitalization helps with patient conversion. If I'm talking about patient comfort, हम सब पे बीत चुकी है ये. हम impression tray मुंह में डाले हैं, impression material मुंह में गया है, patient starts gagging. It's not uncommon it's not uncommon to find toppings on our impressions, especially if you're making one immediately after lunch, which I'm guessing you are enjoying as we speak. I'm going to share with you the findings of an article from 2018, which is by Haddadi. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correct. And this is where on a 0 to 100 scale, he identified that whenever you make a conventional impression, 73% of the patients say that it was not comfortable, which means the patient don't enjoy this procedure, which means this is not a step the patient is looking forward to. On the other hand, when you use an intraoral scanner, the advantage is no gag. All right. The tray is not placed into the mouth. The material is not squeezing into the gingiva or running down the throat as much, which is the reason why there are only 6 out of 100, which basically 6% of patients who undergo intraoral scanning saying that it wasn't the most comfortable. Do you appreciate going from a 73% down to just a 6%? Isn't that a tremendous improvement in patient comfort? So remember, that is another aspect with respect to the advantages of digital dentistry. And the next one is something that was a game changer for me. It's what got me on board. And this is the fact that you get predictable results. Have you ever come across a scenario where you give the patient a test drive or you give the patient some temporary caps for anteriors and then get the final ones done from the laboratory and you fix them in and your patient tells you, Doctor Saab, वो temporary दांत का shape मेरे को ज़्यादा अच्छा लग रहा था. मेरे को वो दांत दे सकते क्या? What do? You're lost, right? Because your patient's aesthetic profile or their aesthetic understanding was more for the temporary. But your final is not the exact same. क्यों temporary कोई और technician ने बनाया, final कोई और technician बना रहा है. There is no copy paste with the analog world. But when I talk digital dentistry, what happens here is it is designed by a computer. I make a putty index. I give the patient a test drive. When I give the patient a test drive, the patient says, oh, wow, doc, I had no idea that this is possible. The patients often get emotional, guys. When they see their own smile, because there's a gratifying change in their smile, they appreciate the work that you do. But then very, very important is when you give them something that appeals to them, make sure your final is an exact copy. And this is where the digital technology steps in, because when you mill your restorations, your final work is an exact replica. It's a duplicate of your test drive or of your temporaries. So there is no, अरे मेरे को तो ये अच्छा लगा, मेरे को तो वो अच्छा लगा. Whatever corrections are needed, do it within the provisional phase and then make sure the final is an exact copy. And that is only and only possible with the help of digital copy paste technology. And last but not the least, of course, it saves time, right? Why does it save time? Because a whole lot of our time is spent in sending work to the laboratory. खर्चा भी होता है, वक्त भी लगता है, गुम भी जाता है, टूट भी जाता है. अरे यार, ये सब मच कब जाएगी? And that, friends, is again where digital technology comes in. Why? Because everything is now sent digitally to the laboratory. You don't have to send physically things across to them. For small cases, yes, not. However, for full mouth reconstruction cases, for full mouth, you can be digitally influenced, but you cannot be completely digital in your protocols. And that is something that I would want to share on this platform here today. And when I say saves time, I wish right now I could see your expression, because I am going to share with you a case of a full mouth reconstruction that start to end, I completed in 5 days. You heard me right. If you had a jaw drop moment, that's exactly what I anticipated. 5 days, full mouth reconstruction. किसी पिक्चर में शाहरुख खान ने बोला था 6 दिन लड़की है, क्योंकि हम संडे को काम नहीं करते. Right? We are talking about actually planning and executing the entire case in just 5 days. And I will share with you that entire case in full protocol. So these are, friends, that I'd like to list as the advantages of being digitally influenced in our practices. Now, when we say digitally influenced, kya aata hai isme? What all comes under the domain of being digitally influenced? And I want all of you all to think like a systems engineer, because that's how I think. How does a systems engineer work? First thinks about an input, then thinks about a process, then thinks about an output. It's very similar to how our computers work, right? There's an input, there's a processor, and then there is the output. So what is the input with respect to dentistry that is digitally influenced? Think about it. It's a part of every practice, I guarantee to you. Why? Because we all have this. With our inputs, we have RVGs, we have OPGs. These are all digital. We have digital cameras with us. And of course, today, something that is at the grassroots level of every digitally modified practice, it's the presence of an intraoral scanner. If you're looking at your mobile phone, guess that mobile phone is also digital, which means you are digitally influenced if you're taking mobile phone pictures. If you're sharing your work on social media, you are already digitally influenced. It's not like you are Adam ke zamane ka ke bhai hamare paas to abhi bhi ye nahi hai, wo nahi hai. I'm not saying that you are not digitally influenced. You already are. But there are steps or stratas that you can take in terms of strides forward to make yourself more and more digital as time moves ahead. So this is what there is with respect to input. When we talk about process, what comes under process? You could have an in-house processing unit, which is nothing but your chair-side system, which can scan and mill both of these together. Or what is something that is more commonly followed when it comes to digital protocol is let the lab make all the investments for digitals. Okay. And today there are so many different laboratories that have invested in intraoral scanners, and they send their boys with the scanners to you. Why would you not want to take the advantage of such a technology available? All right, so go ahead and give it a try. I had reservations for the longest of times, and I'm telling you, I was a critic for the long. I'm not saying I'm not a critic right now. I still am. And you will see it through my presentation, where I say you cannot do a full mouth case completely digital as yet, but slowly and steadily, I am being more and more convinced that the future is probably 100% digital, because there are so many brains that are working on it. There's so much money. There's so much R&D moving around in this direction. And I cannot be more happier that the Indian Dental Association is putting up something dedicated in this regard with their Digital Smile Center. I'm so happy that I'm a part of it, and I take pride in that. Now, when we talk about output, what can digital technology do? It can make crowns and bridges for us. This could be PFMs. No. Remember, CAD-CAM technology is all about monolithic restoration. So you cannot talk about PFMs or porcelain fused to zirconia. They can't make a coping and then the final ceramic has to be done manually. That cannot be done with the help of digital technology. So when we talk about crowns and bridges, we're talking about monolithic zirconia, and we're talking about glass ceramic or lithium disilicate, which is milled. Remember, glass ceramic can also be pressed, but it can also be milled. So digitally influenced is milled, which is where the copy paste aspect beautifully steps in. But is it restricted to crown and bridge? No. You can also make these full mouth implant prostheses. And a lot of these prostheses need not be made after, they can be made before you actually commit to your surgical protocols. Why? Because you can make cast partials, you can make these kind of implant stents. And today, digitalization has reached a point where everything in dentistry is digital, including our complete dentures. You heard me right. The future of complete dentures is 100% digital. And I know of colleagues in India who are currently working on this at great length. So look out for that. Everything that we do, which is prosthetically driven, could be digitally influenced or digitally domained in the coming future. Okay. The entire thing together creates what is called as the digital ecosystem. And I know for a fact, I have gone through this phase where I felt very small. Why did I feel very small? Because everyone around me was talking about names. They were talking as if, यार ये कंपनी का ये अच्छा है, वो कंपनी का वो अच्छा है, ये कंपनी ने ये नया लॉन्च किया, वो कंपनी ने वो नया लॉन्च किया. यार मैं तो यार किसी कोने में बैठा हूं, मुझे तो कोई आइडिया नहीं है. I'm scared. All right, I get intimidated when I see so many different terms, so many different companies. I'm like, यार छोड़ना, ये सब क्या है? This is where a lot of clinicians, including myself, for the longest of time said digital technology bakwas hai sab. And here is me confessing at that point of time, I was in this phase. It's reality. Anyone out there, जो तुम्हें बोलता है ना कि digital technology, chichi, all that is waste. It's just money making racket. They're probably in this phase right now. And I'm telling you this because I've gone through that phase. And here I am putting myself out in its core truth form. I am not here hiding or masking anything. I am not here to promote any brand to you, which is why I will not be talking about any individual product. I am here talking about generic aspects of digital dentistry. I strongly believe, friends, everyone in full mouth reconstructions always talks about diagnosis and treatment planning, diagnosis and treatment planning. And I'm like, guys, let's put a quick halt here in our thought process and rearrange these words. Diagnosis, planning, and treatment. And it's the planning and treatment phase where digital technology steps in. Diagnosis is completely up to me. No one can help me there. Diagnosis is my domain. I have to identify what that patient needs. What am I going to do? How am I going to do? But that's where the planning and the treatment can be digitally influenced. And I love to say this, everything that is planned well will end well. So all that ends well also has to be planned well. We do our financial planning, family planning, clinic planning, life planning. Similarly, let's also do patient planning. And in that regards, friends, instead of giving you before and after of multiple cases, I am going to take a different route in this quick webinar where I go in depth into one case, start to end. So I will be showing you one case in full protocol, so as to give you a perspective of how digitally influenced full mouth reconstructions can be planned and successfully treated. This is, friends, where I introduce to you a term that I hope catches up. I hope you guys can go out and talk to others when you discuss with them saying, I'm using the Andy protocol to do a full mouth reconstruction. So what is Andy? Andy is no uncle. Andy is an acronym for analog and digital. This, according to me, is the present. I'm not saying the future. According to me, this is the present of full mouth reconstruction. It is digitally influenced, but it is also analog in its core crux. There are certain steps that I can do digitally, but I cannot give up as yet on my faithful semi-adjustable articulator. Okay.